or bad?
We'll call it a good thing, and we can see you.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, we'll get started. And I know I teased about this session in the last one that we did about best practices for sending files off-site. And we're going to give you some, I think, some very, very good tips on how to make that, I'll say, easier, maybe not less costly in the beginning, but it will definitely save you money in the long run. And also, too, with the whole focus on getting rid of them. Okay, how do we send these off-site so at some point in the future, we're not bringing them back, flipping the lids, guessing what's in them, or making some, trying to make intelligent decisions without a lot of good knowledge, good information on how to get rid of these paper files. So that being said, I'm going to start, and I'm going to kind of quickly just to give a recap about Matter, and then get right into what we're here to talk about. And then I'm going to touch upon getting out of the offsite record storage business and how we advise clients on how to do that. And then kind of walk through, again, the best practices for sending files offsite. Matter, we started in 1997. Again, these are the same slides that were in the previous presentation. And what we are is really unbiased consultants for law firms, office and administrative services, records, and information governance. We're not affiliated with any service provider. We sit strictly on the client side of the table, helping them either develop a policy, information governance policy, retention schedules, implementing those retention schedules, and negotiating the contracts that support the offsite initiative. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I already talked about it. But here's all the different services we offer. Some firms just hire us to assess. Other firms want the whole soup to nuts approach where we assess, do an RFP, stay involved with the implementation, and oversee the contract. Then again, all the different areas that we consult in. Okay. Getting out of the paper storage business. Well, Rob, why are you talking about that? You're supposed to be talking about telling us how to send these records offsite, files offsite in the most cost-effective and efficient way. And we're going to definitely talk about that. But I always like to say, hey, listen, why are we sending this stuff offsite? And how do we eventually get away from sending paper offsite? And the three things that you need, and again, I touched upon this earlier, is a digital front end. How do I handle and manage the digital documents I produce now? Or how do I convert paper documents to digital documents that I can store at a much more cost-effective rate? Well, I need that digital front end. And again, we offer consulting in that area, but a lot of firms already have that in place. If you don't, there's a lot of good solutions out there. I also need the IG policy and retention schedules. And we talked about that previously, that are approved, implementable, and have detailed retention schedules. So I know when I can destroy a record. And then last but not least, I need offsite contracts that allow me to destroy in a cost-effective way. Unfortunately, a lot of firms don't have those. And again, we're going to talk about that too. Okay, best practices for sending files off-site. Does it really have to be stored in hard copy? Can I get by with it in a digital format? If I don't have a digital front end or any type of repository or any type of organization there, okay, off-site record storage may be the solution. But if I could get away with not doing that, sending that box off-site, because that triggers a lot of subsequent events that we're going to talk about. If yes, I can send it off-site, and I don't have a digital repository that I could put it in, can the contents be called, reduced, and indexed? And firms are all over the place on this. Sometimes they count on the attorneys or the paralegals or the secretaries to take that box of documents and go through it and reduce it. That has mixed results. Some attorneys never get around to it. We try to push that down to the records department so they can make that decision. And in regards to how I can reduce that, because again, less boxes going off site, less money I'm paying. There's a lot of redundant documents in these boxes. There's a lot of stuff that shouldn't be in these boxes that are going off site. I was at a firm, well, I said we had a coffee talk this past Wednesday with a gentleman from a firm that we did a outsourcing RFP in California. And he mentioned that he was given a lot of t-shirts that were sent off site for storage back, 10 plus years ago. And how you got such a kick about wearing them now, because they're definitely, retro, for lack of a better term. But that's a perfect example of why something that should never have been sent off site. The value of those t-shirts now, with all the storage I paid for all these years and the perm out fee, is I could go out and buy a very, very nice closet full of clothes for it. But he got a kick out of that, and he was very proud to be wearing those t-shirts. And then how can we streamline the process of when we do send records or files off site, that when I go to destroy them, when they're out of retention, I can do so in a very, very cost-effective, simplistic way. So they're the three key questions that we're going to focus on today. Okay, before we go into those, I just want to touch upon the different costs for different areas of storage. And I'm sure I'm going to get questions on these, and we welcome it. I'm more than happy to share them. As a matter of fact, we have an excellent white paper on our website about digital transformation. And I'm actually doing an ARMA talk tomorrow with the Jacksonville chapter on this very, very topic. And these costs are highlighted and detailed in that white paper, which I'm more than happy to send you. But if you look at normal storage, I send a box off site, I leave it there for 10 years, I retrieve it, and I destroy it, okay? Cost is approximately $43.45. And again, that's at a standard storage rate and something like that, and the standard fees for both the retrieval and the destruction, okay? If I have to store that, going to that big chart on the right-hand side, and bring it back and flip the lid before I destroy it, my cost balloon to $78.48. Okay, one, I'm permanently withdrawing that, and then I'm flipping the lid and I'm seeing what's in there and what I can destroy or whatnot, and maybe sending some documents back for storage. I don't know that at the time. I didn't factor that cost in, but that whole flipping the lid type thing, and there's no, we put a handling fee in there, $2.41. Probably very conservative. But again, my cost almost doubles. So that flipping the lid, and the way I avoid that flipping the lid type situation is if I have a detailed index what's in those boxes. And then the third way is if I just scan a box. Now that's assuming that nothing is in electronic format, that I have to take a box and scan it fresh. That's where my cost ballooned to $215, okay? And we're going to talk about that whole scanning process and when is a good idea and when it's not a good idea. But if I didn't have to scan it, my cost to store a box for 10 years in digital format is $5 to $20. Really the most cost-effective solution. Now again, not that the offsite is a bad number, okay? If I don't have to flip the lid, but it's twice as much as I would be paying if I stored it digitally. So again, offsite record storage is not bad, okay? Contracts are bad, okay? Or some of the contract terms that we want to avoid are bad. But electronically or digitally is the best way I want to go for any type of storage medium. So just want to touch upon that before we start getting into sending files offsite. Okay, just mention this. Again, not bad to send things off site. Got to make sure my contract's covered and make sure I get a competitive price for all my items or when it comes up for renewal. Okay, but I have to do so intelligently. Well, Rob, obviously we're going to do it intelligently, right? Well, yeah, I'm always surprised by how many firms that we walk into and say, hey, I got a competitive proposal here from a offsite record storage vendor, and I think I'm going to go with it. And that's great, okay? But they never address the perm out fees. or they only address the per mile fees and then don't do the retrieval, or they don't fully understand everything that goes into what it means taking a box out of storage permanently with an offsite record storage vendor and send it to another one. When are the payment of those fees? Okay, what's the rate of transfer, which we touched upon this morning or earlier today? So you got to factor all that in, and it's not just a cubic foot price. It's all the factors that go in to transferring and trying to get a competitive proposal. So exit strategy, again, another key part of offsite record storage contracts. We talked about this more earlier. That's the rate of transfer that we talked about, that there's been a lot of movement, a lot of changes in those areas. So you want to make sure you're covered on that in any future contract. And lastly, I don't want to send a box off site unless I have a retention schedule, where I have an idea when I can destroy it. One, I want to put that date in there, okay, into my record management system, or using the service provider's application, because once it goes in there, it's a black hole. You're paying from day one. If you even retrieve that box and look at to retrieve documents, you're still paying, even if it's not stored there. It's actually in a conference room or a war room at your office. So especially if it's in there and I'm going to be leaving it there for the retention period, I got to have that schedule to know when I could trigger that destruction. And without a client attorney review, fantastic. Without client, okay, even better, okay. But the fact that if I want to send it off-site, I have an excellent index, so I can destroy it sight unseen. I don't have to get into the flip the lid type situation, all the better. Okay, some of the best practices we've seen at law firms, and we've kind of mapped out and wrote numerous articles on and speak about them. It used to be in the old days, you took as many documents as you can, and you crammed them into a box, and you did a kind of half-hearted job on the description of what's in those boxes, and you sent that off-site. That's records management. And as we talked about earlier, the holistic way is not only looking at records management, but taking into effect the whole IG, information governance initiative. So now, not only do you have to look at what you're sending off-site, but how it's going to be the disposition of it when the time comes. And not just versus trying to cram as much in and saving money and not send as many boxes off-site. Because again, whether there's one document in that box or there's 2,500, you're still paying that cubic foot rate, okay? So we want to make sure that people who are sending the stuff off-site have the authority to call to take any documents that don't belong in that box out of there, okay? And again, I mentioned the t-shirts earlier, or half-eaten lunches from 10 years ago or whatever, or legal pads are another big one that makes their way into these boxes. But I want to make sure I have the authority to remove those documents, and it's not just up to the attorney. I want to avoid mixing client files in the same box, okay? They're going to have different requirements. They have possibly different retention periods, but I want to make sure I try to keep all the client files together that fall under the same guidelines. Already mentioned about mixing retention dates. Don't want to mix those up. I want to make sure that I put documents, files in a box that have the same retention dates. Extremely important. I want to make sure I have a quality controlled, quality checked index against the contents of the boxes attached to my records management system. So I know exactly what I want to retrieve and exactly what I want to destroy. Extremely important. Where a lot of firms have taken shortcuts, they're getting smarter now, but it's extremely important I have that information available. Utilize the cubic foot box or 1.2 cubic foot price, the service providers. And people say, oh, I could get that cheaper at Staples, or I could go to a third party and get them cheaper, or I just like to reuse paper boxes. You think you're saving money? You're not. Those boxes are not going to last in many situations. Some will, but a lot of times they're not going to last. You're going to get into the whole reboxing debate of years ago, and you want to avoid that, okay? Also, too, what we find is a lot of the service providers, offsite record storage service providers are wanting to negotiate the price of that box. They want you to buy them. It's free advertising for them when they're sitting around your office and they see all these boxes from the people you're using. You take them home, or you take them out when your lawyers use them to transfer documents for a case. You want them, they want you to buy them. So negotiate that price, and you'll be surprised how much movement you could get. Never use paper boxes or non-standard size boxes. Try to keep everything to that 1.2 cubic foot box. Okay. Well, let's say I have courtroom exhibits or whatever. Okay, understandable, and but you expect to pay when you deviate from that standard size box. Okay, let's talk about retrieval. Okay, I have the stuff stored. I know what's in it, which is great. I get to I have to retrieve it for a situation. Do I send the box to the end user? No. Do I send the file? Possibly. Okay. Do I scan that file and save it in my document management system and then send that link? Obviously, if I don't already have it in my document management system, which if I do, then I don't have to retrieve the documents. I should be destroying that. If I can, if it's not a wet signature or whatever. But that's a great way to start making some headway on not having to retrieve that box in the future. So if I get it back on site, let's take advantage of this situation. Image the rest of the box. Again, mark it in your document management system and your records management system, and then perm out the box. Or better yet, send any new contents, put it in that box, and send it off site. That's the way I avoid the perm out fee. So if I bring a box back because I have to retrieve a file, let's think 2 or 3 steps ahead. And 1, scan it. 2, scan the rest of the contents of the box. Okay. And 3, put new documents in. So again, I avoid that perm out fee and send that back, and obviously update all my systems. So that's a great way to avoid that perm out fee. Another idea, retain wet signature documents, which I have to retain forever. If I have the space and security on site to do it, and that's important, or combine with other wet signature documents into one box. Again, update my applicable systems, and then send that off site once the box is full. So all my wet signature box documents are in X number of boxes, and I know I can never destroy them. And again, that's where offsite record storage, great tool to have in my tool bag. Okay. Again, make sure your contract's competitive and something like that. But sending documents offsite, such as wet signature, that you can keep a digital copy of it, but that you know that you're gonna have to retain. Great idea. Okay. I keep on want to say any questions, but I know they're coming at the end here. Okay. So they're the key parts. I did have a section in here on negotiating offsite record storage contracts earlier, and I'm just going to repeat that I got a couple minutes left before the questions start. But if you have an offsite record storage contract, highly recommend that you do get a benchmark and you try to improve it and improve the pricing and the terms. And I know we have offsite record storage vendors, sponsors here and something like that, and again, they provide a great service, but you want to make sure that contract is competitive. And the biggest thing is having an exit strategy so you can remain competitive. Make sure that you have performance standards so they know what's expected of them and you know what's expected of them. Make sure you have the reporting that you need. And then also to make sure it's competitive. If you're adding storage to offsite, the rate, which is dependent upon your volume, should be going down, not necessarily increasing. So all things to keep in mind. So I'm ready for questions.
Hi, Rob. Susan Hadley.
Oh, Susan, how you doing?
Thank you very much. I have a couple questions here, but we'll give people time to add any more to the chat if they want to do that. Let me ask you, do you have any advice to convince stakeholders and end users to actually go digital? That's the problem I have. Everybody wants their paper.
I say you're always going to have paper. Okay. As we talked about earlier session, you want to make sure the electronic is the paper of choice. It is a document of choice for the firm. Okay, that's the official record. It doesn't mean that paper goes away. Everyone's underneath that illusion, and you should be paperless, but you're still going to have paper. Okay. The issue is you don't want to store that paper. You want to store it digitally. And if they're still arguing about whether it should be stored digitally or stored paper and what holds up in court and all that kind of stuff, we got tons of information on that. It's no longer a reason to hold on to that paper. If they want to work in paper on a day-to-day basis, and I'm one of those guys, and I'm probably showing my age here. I like paper. I like to read paper. I don't like to read on a computer screen. Younger generation, different story. But it doesn't mean I have to store it and hold on to it. It just means that I have to get rid of it, recycle it or shred it or whatever when the time comes. I don't have to store it.
All right, thank you. If you replace contents of a box to avoid permouts, if you have the contents listed with the vendor, you have to update on that on their site. Do they notice that? Do they care?
They don't care. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing a bait and switch or anything like that. You're renting that box space. There's nothing that prohibits you. And again, we do tons of these contracts. There's nothing prohibiting you from switching the contents of that box. Again, you're absolutely right. You have to update what's on the vendors in their records. Update your records too, unless you're just relying on the vendors. But no, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not like a bait and switch. I think we had one firm actually, because the boxes were so beat up, they didn't want to send that off site. They would cut the label off the box and tape it onto a new box and send it. But you're perfectly allowed within your rights. And if you're not, if you get any pushback, call me.
All right, great, thank you. Do storage vendors generally all charge the same way? Little bits and pieces of things, $1 for this, $2.50 for that?
I tell you, in a broad stroke, yes. And some charge per box on certain fees, other charge per cubic foot. I think that's extremely confusing, even to our consultants who have been doing this for years. Try to get them into a standard format if you can. Also, too, a great language to put in your contract is that their Schedule A, which is their rate sheet, which they probably send you every January. Okay, they cannot put any additional fees on there. Like right now, a big thing is if you're permanently withdrawn boxes, you're paying that retrieval, you're paying their per mile fee, but they're also tacking on a handling fee. Okay, that's a relatively new phenomenon. Some used to charge a dock fee. You want to make sure that's listed in your contract for every action you potentially want to do. All the fees that will be involved in that, and getting that in your contract document, so that they can't slip in or create any new fees. I tell you, we're getting notices, and some of you have, I'm sure, that if you want a vaccinated driver, they want to charge you for that. It's not a lot of money, but the fact is that if you want a vaccinated driver walking onto your site, they're going to be charging you more for that. Again, I'm not making any judgments here. I'm saying that, hey, listen, I know I got some clients who are going to balk at that, especially in markets where everyone's supposed to be vaccinated. So it's, again, language in there that the only fees they could charge are the ones that are listed in your Schedule A is a great language to have in your contract.
Thank you. How about, can you generally negotiate for, say, a special project? So rather than, for instance, if you have, it costs so much to input a box to their system. If you decide that at my firm, for instance, we have offsite storage, which is about 3/4 of our boxes, but we also have on-site storage, and we're getting rid of that at this point. We're sending it all there. Do you generally find that I can negotiate a special price rather than use the price that's in the contract for a big project like that?
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask. The worst they could say is no. But yes, especially for destruction, like, hey, I want to be destroying X number of boxes. Can I get a special rate? Or can I get the retrieval perhaps waived? Yeah. Yes, absolutely ask for special pricing for any larger or out of the norm type boxes. And I think, and generally they'll work with it. But yes, they unequivocally yes. And again, the worst they could say is no. I've been married 31 years, so I've heard no quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? I got two children, so it doesn't hurt my feelings anymore. I got a whole bunch of employees that don't mind saying it to me either. But yep, you could ask it. And but generally, I find that they will work if you say, hey, listen, I want you to do the work. I don't want to use a competitor, but how much for if and I'm saying that particularly in regards to destruction. But yes, they will work with you. Also, too, I'm a big one for allowances in contracts. Now, again, you want to make sure you use them or get some type of evergreen. But if I'm negotiating a contract and I could get some type of allowance in there for free, I'm paraphrasing free there, or reduced destruction, I want to take advantage of it.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Somebody says those vaccine charges must be for new contracts. Is any vendor trying to renegotiate?
Well, they're not renegotiating. They're just updating their Schedule A, which they're allowed to do on a yearly basis. And I'm allowed to put language in there saying that, listen, any new charges have to be approved ahead of time, or these are the total charges you're going to be able to charge me for the duration of the contract. You know, you have your escalations, you know, mapped out, or you get some years fixed, and that's all mapped out. But you know, they're slipping them into Schedule A along with those handling and dock fees.
Yeah.
So,
all right. I think that's it for questions, unless anybody has one at the last minute here. Yeah, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Rob. We appreciate all your time today.
It was my pleasure.
I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Hello, everybody, and thank you. I guess we were scheduled to start our wrap up at 4:15, but we might as well go with it now at 4 o'clock. Let's see. I'm going to go back to my screen. I will share. And once again, I'd like to thank everybody. That was very informative, of course. We did really learn a lot, I believe. And we'll go back and I'll give the thank yous. Give me 1 second and I'll go back to my PowerPoints.
I was going to buy a drink for everyone since we finished up early.
Oh, how does that work virtually?
Geez, I forgot. Oh, yeah, I'll figure that out for next time.
Fantastic.
And Brooke posted in the chat the link for the white paper, which I highly encourage you to download. And again, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Brooke did post that. Brooke did post that, so anybody can check the chat for that.
Certainly did. Oh, look at that. Wrap up for drinks. Look at that.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
There you go, Hutch. You should be able to.
All righty, and here are the thank yous. And once again, thank you very much for participating. I'm sorry for the difficulties we had in the beginning, but I'd like to thank our presenters, and here they're listed. Dr. Scott Inch, we had Brianne All. Dr.
I don't think we're seeing your slides, hon.
Oh my goodness. It's happening again. Trouble at the beginning and trouble at the end. Let's get that up.
At least we're
ending early.
Yeah, it's good to end early. I'm going to share my screen. How about that?
Yes.
Fantastic. And we'll start from the beginning with another thank you. And we're going to thank our presenters. And I'll say it again, Dr. Scott Inch from Bloomsburg University. It was a really good keynote, really addressing, in the future of IRM with our the new students coming out. Brianne All, always a very good presenter. Dr. Phyllis Allen, Max Rappaport, Amy Marcos from Drinker Biddle, Donna Hayes. Aslan wasn't able to speak today, but I want to thank him anyway because I did have some good conversations with him regarding his presentation. Brett Wise, Rob Mattern, who did 2 presentations for us, and Brian Vici. He was it was a really good dynamic presentation from him. We'd like to thank our sponsor. That's Bayshore Records Management, GRM, and Mattern and Associates. Presenters, not just sponsors. We really appreciate that. And here we're going to give a little shout out to the board of directors of the Libertyville chapter. That's me, Hutch Johnson. We have Richard Slaughter. Susan Hadley did a great job fielding questions. Christopher Michael, who's our secretary. Eileen Reeder, who also fielded questions. Marianne Efrastrades, she did a great job helping us. Suzanne DeChico, who helped field questions also, and Jonathan Schreiber. I'd like to thank them all very much for their help.
And don't forget with Maria that remind everybody of the CLE credits.
Oh, yeah, thank you. That's why I have you here to tell me about that. And yes, we have 5.5 hours of CLE credits. So I'll make sure I have a list of who attended, and you'll be sent out certificates saying that you attended this this meeting. And our next virtual session, it will again be Mr. Matter, and that'll be 5/19/22. And that's 5 steps to get your firm's information governance initiative off the ground. So I'm going to let everybody go a half hour early. I'm sure that's not bad news for people. You've been here all day. Thank you for sticking around. And that's it. Thank you very much. And we will see you for our next seminar next year, and that will be live. So we're really looking forward to that.
Promises?
Oh, promise. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Totally. We love to see people in person, right? Right?
That'd be great.
Yes, please.
Great. Excellent.
And thank you, Hutch, for doing a good job organizing everything today.
Oh, yes.
Keeping
We'll
us
forget
moving.
about what happened this morning.
It's a minor glitch.
Distant memory.
Minor.
All good.
And yes, the recordings will be coming out to everybody. So we have them separated. It won't be one large session. It'll be broken down into